us, who has been your greatest female role model?
We have to be the ones like opening these doors to the younger generations.
We have about just under 40% of female MEPs.
Hello everyone and welcome to the 12th episode of the YEPP Show. Today we are recording from the European Parliament here in Brussels. My name is Edelmira Ferri and I'm currently the Secretary General of YEPP. A few weeks ago we brought together a group of young female leaders from all across Europe and other continents to discuss on very important matters such as representation and the kind of challenge that women encounter when entering in politics. Today we would like to continue with the debate and the discussion. And actually we would like to move a little bit from just targeting the problems and actually going for the real solutions. And for that we have today with us Zala Tomašič. She's an MEP from Slovenia. Hello Zala, how is it going?
Thank you, very well. I do have to correct you. As of very recently, it's actually Zala Tomašič because I just got married.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
I was just worried about my pronunciation. That it's not always great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Very much. And welcome to the episode. Also, we have today with us Sarah, Susana, and Maria, who are currently EPP Press Directorate trainees. Thank you very much for being here with us. And I think that they have also prepared a few questions for you. How are you girls?
Very well. Thank you for hosting us.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. So for you to know, Zala is the youngest ever elected member of the European Parliament from her country, Slovenia. She's been a member of the European Parliament since 2024. Actually, her work has been focused more on the Committee on Environment, Climate and Food Safety, and also she's a member of the delegations between the European Parliament and Japan. But today we're not here to discuss on also these important matters, but more likely to discuss on how it's to be a woman in politics. So Zala, can you just tell us a little bit more how has it been for you so far?
Well, so far, amazing. I love my job. I feel like I really found myself in this role. I love, it's a lot of work, I'm not going to lie, especially because you don't have a fixed schedule. You don't have in Slovenia, it's 7 to 3. I think in majority of countries, it's 9 to 5, which means that then you work way more than the 40 hours. But I love it. You have a lot of freedom to do what you're passionate about, what you care about. So I'm enjoying every day. I also love how the work is very dynamic, and every day is a bit different. I also don't live in Brussels. I live in Slovenia, so I commute. So that's another part that takes quite a lot of my time, I think, just spending at the airports and airplanes and driving to Strasbourg.
Interesting journey, but always intense, I bet, right? Well, I think that Susana, Sarah, Maria, they have prepared a few questions for you, so we can actually tackle this interesting topic from different perspectives. If you want to start, maybe.
Yes, I think I will start. So my question will be concerned mainly about the women's support. And I found this topic really interesting because I'm basing on my previous work experience. I was working in the Polish Parliament with the member of Polish Parliament, and we were concerning about the women case support. So the European Parliament doesn't have the EU-wide binding quotas. And I was wondering about your point of view. What do you think is important here? More important for you is for the lasting equality are the quotas, or maybe you feel like we can do some kind of transformation inside the political structure?
Well, to be very honest with you, I'm not a fan of quotas. I know that women are very capable, very smart, very intelligent, just like us sitting here at this table. So I would hate to think that I got where I am or to a certain position only because I'm a woman and they needed to fill that position with someone with an XX chromosome. So I don't think I got elected because I'm a woman. Definitely women have certain, I think, characteristics that can be very helpful in politics, and it's important that we are a part of politics. We do think a bit differently than men or react differently. But I do want to believe that I am where I am because of my work, my dedication, my passion, because I put a lot of effort into it, because, I'm constantly learning. I already have a lot of knowledge on things I do, and not be judged and seen only, we needed someone to fill the women's quotas. So I think that although, yes, I can understand that in certain industries, It's very close to, and there are some prejudices that are, based on being a man or a woman. But overall, I don't think that, quotas are the long-term good solution. And I also think that when you get to a very male-dominated industry, and I think in European politics, this is no longer the case because we do have like a female president of the European Parliament, a female president of the Commission, a lot of female MEPs. But I think that otherwise, if you get there because of a quota, the men will judge you even more because it's going to be seen like, oh, we needed her and like she took the job from someone maybe that is more capable. But just because they needed a woman. So I think we have to do more on empowering women, especially young women, to believe that they can achieve whatever they want and creating opportunities for everyone, regardless of their the sex they are, to be able to come to the position that they desire, be it a director, an actress, an actor, a politician, whatever it is, that, the sex shouldn't be the deciding factor what you become. But I don't think quotas are the right approach.
Yeah, but what do you think about like other barriers? Like, do you feel like what we can do to, do something like as the European institutions to don't like lose the barriers for the young women who are stepping into the politics?
Well, I think we've already kind of created an environment in which, at least I myself as a woman, I gotta say, I always felt like I belong here. And I've never experienced this prejudice based on my sex, but I did based on my age. So I think it's more that when I walk into the room and I'm young and people are expecting someone, not a man, but like way older, that was my biggest barrier, not, the fact that I'm a woman. So I thought that was interesting because nobody's talking about maybe the age discrimination that I feel way more nowadays than the sex discrimination.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, thank you very much. It was very interesting because we discussed about quotas during our camp in Madrid. And of course, I think that as you were saying, here in Europe, we've achieved, a certain level of, security for women in politics. Like you can really, we don't have to think anymore that we don't really belong to these kind of spaces. But it is true that when we were comparing, because we had participants from different continents, as I said before, when we were comparing the situation on the different scenarios, it is true that I'm not a big fan of quotas, as you were saying. Also, I agree with you somehow, but it's true that in certain spaces, sometimes it's just maybe the first step, for them to make it into this kind of political world. And then it's true that I don't know if in the long term it will be the solution. But it was very interesting to just really compare realities, because here likely I would say that thanks, God, that thanks to the evolution, of women in politics, nowadays it's easier than it was before. But thank you very much. It was very interesting.
But sorry, just another thing. It just came on my mind because what you asked me, what institutionally can still be done. I think a big part is also that for at least MEPs or women in politics, young women in politics, we should better arrange something for when you have small children. That doesn't only apply to women, also young dads. I don't understand why you have to be present in person for all the votes, because during COVID, it was possible to vote remotely. I definitely, see and I want MEPs to be present in Brussels and in Strasbourg, but I think in exceptional cases when you give birth or when you have really small children or when they get sick, they should be exceptions for young mothers and fathers that they could do some things from home more than it is right now. I'm glad that we passed the proxy voting. So now as an MEP, if you're on a maternity leave, you can give your vote to someone else. But at the same time, I support it, and I'm really happy that at least something is changing, because before your vote just kind of disappeared if you weren't there. And of course, a week after you give birth, you're not going to be really present at the voting session, which I think it's very normal. Yeah. But at the same time, I think when you just have the proxy voting, there's nothing wrong with you, I'm still capable of making my own decision, deciding what to vote for or against. Why do I have to give that to someone else?
Yeah.
All MEPs work hard to be elected. We have our own voice. So I think here we should be able to do more in all the institutions to accommodate young mothers mostly, but also young fathers, depending on the situation. So that is, I think, a very concrete thing that we could improve.
No, that's true. I mean, and also in EPP, since we're so focused, on families and actually like helping parenthood, and so thank you very much for mentioning it. I have heard about it, but it's very nice to see, the kind of like decisions that are actually like being like made in the European Parliament. So thank you for that. I don't know if you would like to continue, girls.
Hi, nice to meet you. My question was about expectations women might face when entering politics and being leaders. So currently, as you said, we have about just under 40% of female MEPs in the Parliament, which is quite some progress. But there's still some disparity regarding the portfolios that women and men have, while men seem to dominate more sort of hard power policy areas like defence, finance, foreign affairs. Often women are more clustered to sort of socio-cultural areas like health, education and rights. And what I found interesting was that your profile sort of leans a bit more into the so-called male-dominated areas. So I wanted to ask you, do you think there's still expectations for women to go into certain soft areas?
Well, I don't want to say there is or there isn't. I can only speak about my own personal experience that might be different for someone else. Yeah. I didn't feel it. Also, when I decided, I mostly cover the automotive sector and the automotive industry and the competitiveness. Yeah. But I'm not the only woman there covering that. So I think it's less and less. I don't find it problematic if, women want to focus more on socioeconomic things and men on something else, as long as that is something they're interested in and it's based on their passions and interests. I don't think we should be telling anyone what they should do. I think it is a problem if you as a woman wouldn't be able to succeed in something you want to, if you want to cover finance and they say no, or, you're having barriers there because you're a woman. That, of course, is not something that I support. But if it happens naturally just because of your background or your previous interests, I think that's all right.
That's not important, very important areas.
Because I think it's important that you as an MEP, you cover what you know about, what you're passionate about, what you want to work on. Because in every life of a politician, I think there's a moment when they see something that they don't like and they are trying to change that. So, I don't think this is based on gender. But sorry, well, there was a point I wanted to say that you started with a question on, like, the
women's expectations about portfolios.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so this is not about portfolios, but maybe just a little bit about expectations of, just being a woman in politics and like how you dress and how you look and how you're being judged on that. I'm gonna say that there is different expectations, right? How you look than to a man, but funnily and interestingly enough, it mostly comes from other women, not men.
Yeah. Interesting.
Usually when you see someone, like, as long as you're dressed like professionally, so that you're not like in a really short skirt or like showing cleavage, men are not gonna care. But women are gonna be the one talking, like, oh my God, did you know what she was wearing? Like, that really, like, or did you see her hair or her haircut? Or, like, she really needs like highlights. So usually from my experience, it's actually women discussing more other women's appearances and men comment more on just if it's appropriate or inappropriate, but otherwise they don't care. Of course, that's definitely maybe in the media that notices different, but I think it's because they know that like women will want to read about like a fashion fail of another woman.
Yeah.
Which, like, it's not just... I always bring that up because I thought that was really funny, because every time someone commented, even on social media, my appearance, it was actually another woman.
That's, I mean, we also discuss, these particularities, let's say it that way. I mean, during the camp, because we're actually mentioning the fact that sometimes, where we can be our worst enemies, which is very sad, because we should be there just to empower each other, which I actually think it's happening more and more, I think that in YEPP, we have this idea of actually like empowering girls and not having these discussions that actually like take us nowhere.
Yeah, and support each other.
It's
and
interesting it's interesting to see and also to know, I mean, to learn a little bit more about your own experience, because as you were saying, maybe you go to your Instagram and then you only see comments, like talking about, I don't know, what you were wearing or your hair or these things, I mean, Well, I think it's a matter of, like a common and general effort we are seeing here.
Well, to be fair, I try not to read the comments on social media.
I mean,
It's like nothing good ever comes out of it. No, but you're right. I do hope, and I'm trying to create an environment in which women would be supporting other women. And then also, like, when we get a trainee or something, that you help them get a job and progress. Because, I don't know, sometimes I feel like when you succeed as a woman, or maybe when you get a bit older, you get jealous of the younger one, or, there's like this dynamics. I don't know. But I think it's important that we try to, get past that and really help each other, because especially if you're like somewhere where there's a lot of men, why shouldn't, like, it's nice to have a woman as an ally. If nothing else, that you can borrow a tampon from her if you need it.
Exactly. And also because we have to think about the fact, and we as a youth, I think that we really think about it, is that you need this generational, shift, let's say, at some point. We are here, but we need someone. We need more girls and women to actually like join YEPP or join our national organizations. So we have to be the ones like opening these windows, actually to the younger generations. But you are right. Now, if you would like to continue, you have any more questions?
Yeah, sure. I would like to shortly represent myself, just who I am. So I'm a Ukrainian trainee at the European Parliament, and I'm as well the Young European Ambassador in EU initiative, and as well the CDU member in Berlin. So basically, my question is going to be related to Ukraine, as I previously had the professional experience in Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, and we were managing cases with the protection of female rights in the section of Council of Europe. So the war in Ukraine has shown that women are not only deeply affected by the conflict, but also they're playing the leading roles as soldiers, politicians, volunteers, or, for example, community leaders. So my question is, has this changed Europe's view of women's leadership in times of crisis? And as well, what lessons should policymakers actually learn from Ukraine?
Well, this is one lesson we definitely should learn, and this is not related to completely the topic of our discussion but we have to support Ukraine no matter what. Like, you're defending our borders, you're like the first line of defense that Europe has. So I think this is something we should never, ever forget. And I'm really sorry that the war is lasting as long as it is. And hopefully it's going to come to an end soon. But it's interesting because I think even if we look throughout history, it usually was the wars that show the value of women, even after the First and the Second World War, when so many men died or were on the battlefield, the women had to take charge, right, of like taking care of the families, of starting to work. So I think that once, I'm not saying wars are always awful. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to make that point. It's always, always, always bad. But I do think that at least like after the world wars, it gave women certain new powers and opportunities. And then once people realized how capable we are, we were able to even push for even more rights for us. Yeah, but we shouldn't need wars to do that. But I think when we're speaking about Ukraine, I actually had a really interesting discussion because I'm also a part of the women EPP.
Yes.
So, and when we're discussing sometimes stuff in the European Parliament or even here, passing these resolutions or even legislation, and we're discussing, like how many genders there are, or like, can men menstruate? Can men give birth? We forget that like in Ukraine, you have completely different problems you're facing. Like I heard that your women are actually concerned about freezing the sperm of their husbands so that in case that they die, that they can have children and that Ukrainian nation can survive. So I think this really put things in perspective of what it means to have a family, to be a man, to be a woman in times of war. Because I think in Europe, and I'm really glad we haven't had war in decades, and hopefully we're not going to have it. But I think sometimes you forget. And, you're dealing with all these minor things that you think are a huge issue. And you kind of lose focus on what actually matters when your life is being threatened when someone attacks your country. And I think Ukraine is really showing us that. And it's showing us what it also means to be a woman, to really step up in times of crisis. what it is, when like I can't imagine that I would have to see my husband or like my father going there, risking his life for the homeland, right? Not knowing, are you going to see him again? So I think, when you really look at that picture, you look at the entire things differently. And I think as an EU, not just on this issue, but on every other issue, we need to take a step back, because I think we got so focused on the small things that we're forgetting the bigger picture and what it matters. Yeah. And I am also a conservative politician, so obviously, like family values and all of that is extremely important to me. And also it pains me to argue about how many genders they are, or if men can give birth or things like that. So hopefully this is the lesson we also learn, what it is important, what should be we focusing on, that, priorities for Europe should be defense, should be support for Ukraine, should be our competitiveness, because we know we're kind of lagging behind there, and not these like minor things that we might spend hours and hours and hours arguing on as politicians.
Fully agree. And I have also the follow-up question. So what can the example of Ukrainian women teach the young women considering careers in politics, diplomacy, and the public sector, public service?
I think, and I hope it's going to inspire women that they should dare to do things. And not only when there's a time of crisis and there's like nobody left when you look around in the room because men are fighting on the battlefield, or, also some that have passed away, but that they should dare to do things, even in times of peace, that they're capable, that they're smart, that they're intelligent, that they can play a vital role in shaping European society, and that they should just go for it. And I really hope to see not just many women, but also many young women running for office. Because like I said, I think in EPP, I'm the youngest one, and I just turned 30, Yeah,
and it's very impressive.
Yeah.
You should be proud of that.
But, according in the Slovenian law, I'm no longer young. I think it's up to 30. So hopefully also our generation is going to kind of step up. We are a very important voice. And unfortunately, I think that we can be engaged in so many youth policies areas, and which is really, really good. But I think we also should be at the table regardless of the topic we're discussing. We're affected by healthcare, we're affected by housing, we're affected by taxes, by pensions, by defense, and security. Yeah, there's not a single area in which women or young people wouldn't be affected. So we shouldn't also let that the policymakers or whoever narrows down the topics where we can be a part of to like education or women's rights. Like it's everything that affects us. It's not one single thing. So I really hope, that this is something that, like you said, 40% of female MEPs. I really hope that soon it's going to also be 40% of young MEPs.
Yeah,
we're waiting for that.
This is a general message, for the upcoming, well, not upcoming, but for the next European elections, right? That they should include like more young people, women, men, but also like youngsters, so we can actually give our perspective on many, many different matters, because I think it's very important. Sometimes you have people way, 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 way older than us that are actually taking decisions on our lives. And I think that our perspective should be taken into account for sure.
Yeah, and it's important that we have all the generations,
exactly.
Right? Like from the youngest to the oldest.
A balance.
And another thing that I always say when people are like, okay, but maybe you don't have that many life experiences or that much knowledge, And I'm like, yes, okay, fair enough. And life experience mean a lot. I mean, I see it. My views have definitely changed from the time when I was 18 to now that I'm 30. But at the same time, think about, do someone who is like, I'm going to say 50 or 60 or 70 plus knows what AI is or how to regulate social media. Like the things that we're discussing today, for us, we know how to use social media. We know how to use AI. Does someone who is much, much older than us, who is adopting that legislation, really better suited to adopt that legislation than us?
Yeah.
So this is why I think it's important that, yes, we do have the older generation. They have a lot of experiences. They have a historical memory. They're really important, but also to have a young one so that you always have this bridge between, like experience and like fresh new ideas and energy.
Exactly. I think it's about like common sense sometimes, right? It's very good to have a very balanced team. I always think that you need the expertise, from older generations and also the fresher ideas coming from us. And so we're maybe like way more familiar to certain topics because it is natural. I mean, we've been born in these decades. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
it's completely like logic. But thank you very much. And also now to wrap up the episode, I think that we all are enjoying. We have prepared a little game for you, and I think that the girls are going to explain to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the game is called Policy Tinder, and the idea is that we're going to read out some statements for you, and we want you to either swipe right and agree with the statement by holding up the in favour, or reject it by swiping left.
That's really hard as a politician, because you always say it depends, and then you explain.
You can give some explanation.
Let's see if it depends or not.
Listen to your own intuition.
Okay, so let's start with the first policy Tinder question.
Okay.
Gender quotas should remain in place.
Against. I think I explained that one.
Yeah. The European Union should do more to promote women in leadership.
Well, I think it's always good to promote.
Political parties should adopt gender-balanced candidate lists.
See, this one is like, yes, of course, but I think it should be based on merit, not gender.
Okay.
So, I mean, it sucks to raise against because I don't want to send the wrong message, but
It's
I
like
think,
against with reserves.
yeah, like, I think merit should be the number one. Like, if you're capable, if you're hardworking, that should be.
So green
that
for
should
merit.
be the criteria.
Yeah.
But we should always create opportunities, so that women know they can be a part of it and never feel like they're not good enough or that they can't speak up,
Okay. Women are still underrepresented in economic and defence policy.
Oh, this one is also like, well, right now looking at the EU, I'd say no. We have like the High Representative, the President of the Commission, the President of the Parliament, but also you can always have more, so...
Difficult.
Yeah.
So paid parental leave should be improved across the EU.
Yeah, that one, I think. Especially, I know my sister lives in the Netherlands and she only got like 3 months, which I think it's absurd.
Okay, good. Political parties should actively recruit more women candidates.
Again, I don't like things to be focused on the gender, so I'm going to say, well, again, I don't want to say like
Let's say like capable women.
Yeah, yeah. I think they should really create opportunities for women and for like everyone, yeah.
For young women.
And for young women, yes. So
For everyone.
Yeah. So merit alone is enough to achieve gender equality in politics.
Again, yes, but obviously you have to encourage, in schools, and through the education system and society that, obviously there is that the men and women are equal sexes, right?
Okay, perfect.
So I think that's kind of the underlying foundation, and then
Yes.
you can build on merit. But if you are telling men go into politics and women go into like other, then it's obviously a no. But otherwise, but I think in the EU we're there that I can say in favor.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, so now we have a few questions coming from our JEP's audience. If you guys want to start.
Yes. So the first question from audience is, who has been your greatest role model? Female role model.
Okay, good question. Okay, so firstly, I'll say my mom. I love, how she managed to do everything. I have 2 sisters, so there was 3 of us. And my parents are divorced, so a big chunk was on her. And she still was able to raise, I think, 3 beautiful, capable daughters and have a full-time job in which she was also very successful. So I really wish I'm going to be as good of a mother as she was. So that would be number 1. And then secondly, like politically, I don't know exactly. I can't just name one or just one female, but I would say like the older generation of politicians, like from the previous century, like from like Churchill to like
Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah, Margaret Thatcher, like Ronald Reagan. Like I think politics in the previous century was something different. We didn't have to deal that much with populism. with all this. I mean, it was always a popularity contest, but in a different way. So I think, the conversations are more based on the content rather on, like what seems cool or like what's going to get you views. And I think how they were making decisions and everything was like, and the rhetoric they had to use, the great speeches they had to be brave. So I love watching like biographies of the older politicians. That sounds a bit weird, but like the politicians, the leaders of the previous century.
Okay, very nice.
Cool.
And the second question was, what advice would you give to a young woman who's entering politics and doesn't think she's good enough or ready?
Oh, don't think that. Just go for it. I remember when I joined the party, I wasn't even 18.
Yeah.
And I joined it, and, all of a sudden, even though I started in the youth wing, but even there were these people that I saw on TV, and all of a sudden I was in the same room with them, and I thought, wow, they're like so much more knowledgeable and like better at this than I am. Like, what can I, as a 16 or 17-year-old, really contribute? But then you realize that everyone starts at the beginning, even the current prime ministers, even the current presidents were at some point like young people that just entered politics. And also in politics, I think there's also a lot of people who are just very confident, but don't necessarily have the knowledge to back it up.
Yeah.
So I think the more time you spend in politics, you realize that. So it is intimidating at first, but you just have to go for it and get over that. And honestly, like fake it till you make it, and then you're going to start, the more you're engaged, the more people you're going to meet, the more knowledge you're going to get. So it's going to get better and better. But the first step, I know it's the hardest. It was for me as well. And it took me quite some time to get over, that fear, especially, like when you're admiring these people at home, like during the news time, like listening to them, and there you're like, oh, I don't know what's happening. But you just have to like get the courage in that moment. And usually like people are friendly. If you go up to someone and you say, especially when you're from the same political family and the same political party, which I'm assuming you're going to start in the one that you agree with, they're going to be nice to you. And a lot of people want to help you, and they're going to introduce you to new people. So it's really important that you get over that fear and then just dive in. Well, at least for me, and I know for many of my friends, was like an amazing experience. And now when I look at my friend circle, majority of them come from the party.
Thank you very much. I think that now we're coming to the end. I think that it's been very interesting. We all have enjoyed a lot having you with us today. We really hope that this is not the last one. So looking forward to having you in the future as well. And thank you very much to everyone that has been part of this episode.
Thank you so much.
See you in the next one.
You've been listening to the YEPP Show. Thank you for joining us today, and make sure to follow us on our social media.